Hi, good morning, and welcome to the Wake.Show. My name is Chris Fisher, and let's see, where are we at? And we're ready to go. All right, enough of this nonsense. Let's get my TV back on behind me. We're getting a little bit of a late start today. How's everybody doing? How you feeling? Good? Good? You ready for a little stuff you should know? We'll pull off some of the headlines. Oh, wow. Keeping that hat on all morning, that's not a good idea. Still freezing here in the Bay Area. Let's make sure all the cameras are doing what they're supposed to. Oh, there you are. What the hell's wrong with you? Woof. Good morning and welcome to the Wake.Show. I am Fisher. Coming up on the show today, if all goes well, we will have my old friend Napoleon on, Nate Farmer, one of my first show partners going way, way back. And also Teddy from Faces of Death. And this is something that I can't wait to talk about coming up today. Growing up in the 80s, Faces of Death was one of those things. And I think for a lot of guys, it's almost like a rite of passage. You had to watch Faces of Death before you can get into manhood. And then last year, about a year ago, actually, 11 months ago, an expose came out exposing Faces of Death, and a lot of the stuff that was in it was not real. Now, there was speculation about that over the years, and it didn't surprise some people who had studied the film, but for people like me, it floored me, because I thought every single one of it was this a cult, there was this cult, phenomenon that surrounded Faces of Death, and I saw in one article, somebody kind of jokingly saying it was the first viral video. And in a sense, it is. The first viral video. In a sense, it is. But there's a lot of history behind it. And we're going to have somebody who's associated with it, Teddy, coming by the studio today and talk a little bit about the behind the scenes. Faces of Death, because I know a lot of you, like me, grew up with this, in your life. Now, personally, I only watched one scene. As we've established here on the show, I am a sensitive man. I was a sensitive boy. I didn't like to see death. I didn't like to see fights. I didn't like somebody I didn't get excited when I saw somebody get punched. I winced when somebody gets hurt. I don't remember. I just remember we were over at a friend's house. I don't even know who it was. It had to be junior high school, maybe high school, maybe early high school. And next thing you know, somebody goes to pop this thing in. I just remember there was a group of us, and the first scene, somebody died. I can't remember exactly how it was now. I just remember going, oh, that's it. Turned, spun around and walked out of the room, and that was it, because that's just not my thing. But we'll be talking to him coming up on the show today. Let's go ahead and get right to stuff you should know, and then start going through some of the headlines that popped out to me this morning. Let's see. It's Friday. Mostly sunny today, though. High of 62. That's kind of cool. With partly cloudy skies and 70 tomorrow for those of you that are heading out for the Gasparilla the kids version of Gasparilla. Oh, what is that? What is that? The top of my screen there. All right. Let's see. So that we've got that camera there. That camera that'll be our guest today when he comes in, and that is me. And here is stuff you should know. Thursday night, the House passed a temporary government-wide funding bill that would avert a government shutdown this weekend. The 230 to 197 vote came after an influential bloc of House conservatives won promises of future action on separate legislation to bolster the military and tighten immigration laws. House Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows announced the group's support after talks with the House GOP leaders and President Trump. But the measures still face uncertain prospects in the Senate, where Democrats are poised to block it in hopes of spurring slow-moving talks on immigration. The abuse allegedly at the hands of David and Louise Turpin was far worse than thought. Prosecutors in Riverside, California say the Turpins would chain up their children for months at a time, would not unchain them to use the bathroom, gave them very little food, allowed them to bathe once a year. And they come to find out there was 3 houses that they had these kids spread. How does this go on for 29 years? It doesn't. Prosecutors also say the kids are so uneducated that they didn't even know what a police officer was when they were being rescued. Well, not all of them, because I also read that this had been a plan in the making for 2 years. So they know what I don't know. They know what 911 was. They knew that they were going to try to procure a cell phone and dial 911. So they figured that part out. Also, come to find out, the 17-year-old daughter or sister or the person that went running for the cops, she had another one of her siblings with her, actually. But that person freaked out, got too scared, and turned around, went back to the house while she continued on her journey. These new revelations come as the Turpin parents were in court on Thursday, entering pleas of not guilty. Day 4 of witness statements in the abuse trial of Dr. Larry Nassar gets underway today in Michigan. The judge originally said she would order a sentence today, but told Dr. Nassar Thursday she has enough witness impact statements to last 1 or 2 more days. So they've already gone through 3 days of this. And by the way, the gall of this guy. The judge scolded the doctor for writing a letter to her, claiming she was allowing a media circus by allowing all the victims time to speak. So this prick who's molested 140 children, allegedly, I guess I have to throw that out there, as, what? You go through the trouble. You got to make sure the stuff pops up, right? I forgot all day yesterday. Yeah. So this guy has molested child after child after child. The judge is allowing 100 of them to speak in court. I guess there's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 140 of these poor girls out there. And then he has the gall to write a letter to the judge saying that she shouldn't allow this media circus, that she shouldn't allow all these people their time in court. I don't know how this guy's... Do they keep somebody like him in a separate area, a separate place? Because I'm surprised he's still alive. I'm surprised that somebody in the wherever he's being held hasn't, taken out some aggression on this guy. Hollywood Awards season rolls on with the SAG Awards on Sunday night. That's actors celebrating actors. And the hashtag Time's Up talk is sure to continue as both James Franco and Aziz Ansari are nominees. New movies this weekend include Chris Hemsworth's Afghanistan war drama 12 Strong and Gerard Butler's action drama Den of Thieves, along with a romantic drama called My Girl. I'm hearing good things about 12 Strong. I'm hearing horrible things about Den of Thieves. So take that for whatever it's worth. Ooh, normally we have Roy come in on Friday as well and talk movies, but I know that Roy called off last night for our Bake More Music event, sick. So I don't know if he's going to make it in today or not. And that is stuff you should know. We'll get to, we're going to get right to the this house of torture in California, and I'm sorry for starting off with such crappy stories today or crappy news today, but that's where we are. Wait, what? There we go. Hi. Let's check in. This is the portion of the program where I go to Facebook now, and I check to make sure. Let's see, we're on. I had a good morning. Good morning from Don. Mike, good morning. Elliot. This reminds me of Joseph Fitzel. Lauren, not allegedly. He pled guilty. Oh, wait. Talking to, wait. What story is she talking about here? Oh, you're right, Lauren. I'm sorry. You're right. Dr. Nassar has pled guilty. This is the sentencing, right? So this is where they march through all the victims, and then the sentencing will happen after this. All right, you're right. So not allegedly. He's already pled guilty to that stuff. Okay. Let's get to some of the headlines from this morning. Sarah, I'm awake. Okay, I'm awake. What I'd miss? You didn't miss anything this morning. We got to lay a little bit of a late start. Got a couple of guests rolling through here. Very excited for those of you that have been following my radio career for a long time, which I don't know. I don't know there's anybody listening that goes or watching that goes this far back to Napoleon, Fisher and Napoleon. His real name is Nate Farmer. But he and I went to SAC Comedy Theater together, studied a little improv comedy, and did some performing there. As a matter of fact, back when do you know the name? We met, you know Wayne Brady. Wayne Brady, he was on Whose Line Is It Anyway? He had his own television show for a while. Yeah, very, very funny guy. Anyway, at the time that Nate and I were at SAC Comedy Theater, he was there as well. And they were the main player. They were the Friday, Saturday night players. We went on, I think it was Wednesday nights or Thursday nights is when we would, we were the young ones that are just learning and do improv comedy and whatnot. But I do recall Wayne Brady, and there was two other gentlemen, and I wish I would remember their names. One, I know his name was Jonathan, and I can't remember the other guy's name. He was a big guy. But everybody, I don't want to say everybody in Orlando, everybody in the improv comedy scene back in the mid-90s in Orlando, we would, to watch these guys perform was just a sight to behold, all three of them. And so you'd go and you'd watch it, and they would be amazing because it was not just comedy, too. There's also singing and all, just very talented guys. Well, anyway, all three of them leave to go to Hollywood. Wayne Brady, as you all know, did very well. The other two guys, have made their way. The big guy that I'm talking about, and I feel bad for calling him the big guy. He was one of the first ones that I saw who had made it, and because it was like within a year after they left, I saw him doing. Comedy Central had him dressed up as a Santa, and so for some promos, so he was getting some face time on Comedy Central, and then he had a bit part in what's that Kevin Spacey American Beauty, and the scene that I'm talking about. Is this boring, everybody? By the way, I understand if it is, but this is where we. It's the scene where Kevin Spacey and that kid, they're at a Christmas party or a corporate function or something like that, and they walk out back to smoke pot, I think it is, and then a manager peeks his head out the back and yells at the kid to get back inside to clean tables or whatever he's supposed to be doing. Well, he's the manager in that one. And then the other guy, Jonathan, you would see him on in some things as well. But anyway, that's where I first, started doing stuff with Napoleon, who he became Napoleon later on, Nate Farmer, in that capacity, although he and I did go to high school together. We didn't know each other that well. We knew each other, but not that well. But then from there, we did radio together in Tallahassee, Daytona, and Tampa. And then he went off to start his own career. Hey! How you doing? You're going to be in that chair right over there, Teddy. You got it. We'll get to Teddy here in just one second. But as I was telling you guys this morning, we got a cool show today. Nate will be on with us about 8:30. I think we'll have him on. But right now, I'd like to welcome in my guest this morning. And Teddy, how are you doing? Let me get a mic check from you over there. Make sure
Everything's great.
Good morning, sir. Welcome in.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Where are you traveling from today?
Actually, I came in last night from Fayetteville, North Carolina, froze my tail off. Went up there in the blueberry business now, produce.
I love blueberries. Did you bring some blueberries in today?
Unfortunately, I did not. Had I known, I should have brought you some.
Well, I'm a big fan of the blueberry because they're good for you.
They are awesome for you.
And they taste delicious.
We appreciate everybody that buys them, too.
Teddy, because we're going to talk about Faces of Death, a cultural, I don't even know what you call a phenomenon here in America for a couple of, before the internet. And, but first, how is it you get into blueberries? Are you a farmer? Do you come from farming?
I am not a farmer. Didn't grow up in farming. Grew up around animals my whole life. My father was a herpetologist, but I was an athlete, and I wanted to play professional golf.
Explain what a herpetologist is.
A herpetologist is somebody who loves reptiles. He was one of the foremost leading herpetologists in the world on poisonous snakes and alligators and things like that.
I just assumed when you said herpetologist, in my head, it changed to herb, and I just assumed it had something to do with plants and whatnot.
No. So all reptiles, and so I grew up around animals my whole life, and we had lions and bears and tigers. Oh my! snakes and alligators, and lived a life that when you look back as a child and you say, wow, it was really cool. And, there's kids, people around the world that don't get to see any of these things. And I was very fortunate to grow up with them. So I have a great deal of respect for animals, and my dad taught me a lot, and I'm really appreciative. But I played professional golf, and I got hurt. And to be quite honest with you, even though I played professional golf and I was a good golfer, I was never good enough to get out there.
So you were on the Nike tour, or whatever they called those back.
I tried the Hogan Tour in some mini tour events, and I was a golf pro at a country club, and I had a good life. But once I got hurt, I knew that was it. That was it.
And so blueberries for you all day long.
I had to make a decision. What do people in the world need? And one thing is health care. Well, I knew I wasn't going to go back to med school. I didn't finish college. And the other thing is people got to eat. And I literally started at a Walmart distribution center driving a forklift. And I just swallowed some humble pie and said, you know what, I've got to do this. And
Well, how old were you at that point?
Oh, God, I was like my early 30s.
Oh, that's a horrible time, because you're right. Talk about, there's a lot point.
Absolutely,
There's still in your head, you're like, oh, I can still make the tour. I can still make the tour.
Yeah, it was tough. And I was married and had small children, and it was tough. And anyway, because of that, and Walmart recognized that I probably had a little brain, and I got to go to management, and just one thing led to another, and I was in the meat and produce side of the business at distribution level, and I was very fortunate that I made some great contacts, and it just grew, and I really got to where I liked blueberries, and I worked for a company called Sunny Ridge Farm. And now I work for a company called Wish Farms. They've been in business since 1922, and I run the blueberry division, and we're one of the largest strawberry growers east of the Mississippi. And we started a blueberry division that was about 500,000 pounds year round. We're going to probably push 30 million pounds this year.
All right. Well, good for you, man.
Love it.
Well, let's go back a couple of years. Let's go back a couple of decades, because I would imagine this is all post the original Faces of Death.
So, yes, it is. So, Faces of Death.
Let's talk about what's your association with Faces of Death.
So, in the beginning, I was just a kid. My father. I go back to my dad.
Okay.
Faces of Death originally was a documentary. It was called Fear. And Fear was a documentary that was based on people's phobias of dying, of what they do. A policeman being shot in the line of duty.
Right.
My dad being snake bit.
Right.
And it took off in Japan, of all places, because Japan typically likes more of the horror type movies, not some of the slasher movies that you see today, but like the Godzilla type things. And
The Ring, if people remember, watch The Ring, that was originally called Rangu or something like that.
Yes. And they said, well, wait a minute, we can take this and do something a little bit different with it. And so the production company was approached that did Fear, and they said, we want to kind of sensationalize this, and we want to kind of grow it and make it a little bigger than what we think it can be.
Now, your father originally did Fear as a documentary. Now,
Correct.
The footage that was in the original Fear, was that all real footage, or was that reenactments?
All that's real footage, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. But now I don't want to get people to get confused, because we're getting Fear predates Faces of Death by just a little bit.
Correct.
And then it takes on a life of its own from there as they start to pepper in reenactments, come to find out.
Yes.
Son of a...
So Faces of Death came along, and they approached my dad and said, listen, hey, we want to come back to Florida. We want to film a snake bite. And essentially...
A real legit one.
Well, we recreated it.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's me. You see me on the floor, and it's at my parents' house.
How old are you now?
I am 17 at the time.
And, child labor.
Yeah. And my sister's in it. All my friends come over, they're in it. And long story short is I I'm the snake bite victim. I happen to be going into the kitchen. I hear some noises, and I lift up the bottom of the cabinet, what was an old wooden deal, and there was a rattlesnake pit. And I get bit. And next thing you know, the ambulance shows up. My father shows up. The Polk County Sheriff's Department shows up. And you see my dad coming in and getting the snakes off of me and stuff. Now, at that time, these snakes were, I was a dummy laying there, but a lot of times you see the cutaway of my face. And it's the magic of TV, right? The magic of a camera.
Right.
And it goes from there. And you see my dad in action picking the snakes up and dealing with it. So... And we also did an alligator scene there. And one of the more famous scenes in Faces of Death history, folklore, is my father actually playing a park ranger on a boat. And this was in my parents' backyard on a lake. And he throws a rope in to catch an alligator that's been a nuisance in the neighborhood. And unbeknownst to the world, I... grab the rope because I'm in the woods in the reeds there, and we pull him in, and you hear him yelling and flailing, and you see all of us, and then cut. A month prior to that, we'd sent him to California, and they made a complete dummy of him, head and all.
Right.
So he goes in with the alligator. He's wrestling. This is real footage. Alligator's mouth's taped. Cut. Throw the dummy in there, and the alligator has a heyday. And there you have a scene.
It is. It was just a couple weeks ago when I first called you, but it was right after Cords. My partner on the show here told me about all this, and he goes, "You remember Faces of Death?" I'm like, "Of course I remember Faces of Death." He goes, half of that stuff, half that footage in there is stage," and my mouth dropped, and I couldn't believe he's like, "Yeah," and I know a guy talking about you. If you want him, I'm like, "Of course I wanted to show you. You're ruining my childhood. What are you doing?" And so I did a little research at that. I got off the phone with him and, go on the old internet, and I saw that this was, I don't want to say it was blown out of the water, but the expose was done just less than a year ago. Now, there'd always been, rumblings that, there was people who look at this footage and go, "Man, I don't know, that looks staged there, that looks staged there." And so this was all validated a year ago? Or has this been, the cat been out of the bag for a long time?
I think it's probably a combination of both. I think there's just a faction of people that just want to believe it.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's great. I will tell you that in making of Faces of Death 1, 2, 3, 4, and the worst of Faces of Death, which is a compilation of all four of those, we recreated a lot of footage. We bought a lot of real footage. I mean, there's boat accidents and things like that. But we created things like I did the Rodney King beating before there ever was a Rodney King.
Before beating at Rodney King was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately for him, it came to fruition. But we created this thing in Los Angeles where we had a neighbor with an old style on his shoulder the very first video camera, and the police pull over this Hispanic and they just beat him up. And this guy's got it on footage, and he turns it in, and we've got the fake news guy there, the whole 9 yards, and it just. And
you were also fake news before fake news was cool.
Absolutely, and so it's we did things like magician, having the spikes of death, and I just remember being in my office one day, and I said, and I love magic. There used to be a place in Los Angeles called the Magic Castle, and all the magicians would go there and practice their trade, in front of other magicians, and it was a kind of a cool club. And I said, after leaving there one night, I said, what if one of these things went wrong, and what would happen? This guy's supposed to leave and escape out of this thing, and it doesn't happen.
Right.
And so we said, well, let's just do one, and we did. We put the magician in there, and we got the girl, and all of a sudden, this spikes of death's going to come down. He's supposed to have escaped. Well, he doesn't get out. I truth be told, I have to let you know, I don't know if I told you this when you and I first talked.
I've only seen one scene from the original Faces of Death.
I think you told me that it bothered you so much you left the room.
Yeah, I was a sensitive kid. I'm still, as a man, I'm still sensitive. That is not my thing. I don't watch horror movies,
right,
and whatnot. I didn't, that wasn't my thing as a kid either. But yeah, there was a group of us teenagers, and somebody popped in the old VHS thing, the lure, the mythology that went around, surrounded it at the time, that these were all actual deaths that you were watching. I want to say the first was somebody try to jump a ramp.
I think we had a car.
Yeah. Was that in the very beginning of the movie?
It was one of the very first ones. It might have been the second one.
Yeah. Okay, that was it. As soon as I saw that, I go, I'm out. Yeah. I don't need that in my.
And we did some things. Nobody goes in and films an autopsy. Nobody films an electrocution. Those were all recreated. And long story short, we just literally, we had a lot of fun with it. We were able to bring a lot of locals in the areas that we shot in, be a part of something, and we just had the most fun doing it, and it took on its own following, right? And we called it, one of the things that our director and co-producer would call it was reality TV before there was reality TV.
Yeah. I was one of the articles that I read, I would love to steal this line, but it said it called you the first viral video. The first viral video. And in a sense, I can see what they're saying there, right?
Yeah.
It is true, because when that thing was being passed around as I was a teenager, I didn't even know that it had been released in theaters in the late 70s.
Yes.
I thought it was just a VHS thing.
Yes. And of course, nobody saw it in the late 70s. But it just took on its whole cultural thing. And so then in the 80s, you could go, they used to have what's called the midnight showing, and it'd show like maybe the Rocky Horror Picture Show and Faces of Death. And the theaters would be packed.
Well, that's what I was just showing the camera here is this, hold on, let me do this again. It's a Faces of Death 4 certificate. And is this you or is this your kid?
My brother.
Oh, your brother. Okay.
Yeah, my older brother.
So you actually got a certificate coming out of the theater saying, I survived Faces of Death 4. Hold on. You sign it there at the top. This date is dated exactly today.
No way.
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. It's dated February 28th, 1993. And it says, after viewing the horror epic I survived, only time will tell if I will mentally be the same. Signed, Angel of Death.
I didn't even know those were going around.
All right, so if you're just tuning in, we have Teddy here, who was originally associated with Faces of Death because his father shot the documentary Fear. And then another production company saw that, called you guys and said, or called your father and the production company and said, hey, we'd like to take this to the next level and really sensationalize this and take it over the top.
I wouldn't say a next level. I just say like a different street. I mean, just a totally different avenue. You'd have to know my father too. He's very, he's a very serious guy, and he takes his trade, again, one of the most respected herpetologists in his field in the world. I mean, he's written Army survival manual techniques on snake bite and things like that.
Oh, wow.
And so for him to kind of just take it and run with it and really have a good time, it was fun to watch him as a kid because he was always so serious about his work. And he really had a great time with it. And like I said, we all did. My mother was in it. My sister was in it. All my friends were in it. My high school buddies would come and they're like, yeah, we're shooting a movie. Come on down. I went to high school in Ocala and they'd all drive down.
So I'm from Ocoee.
Yeah. So I'm from Ocala. I grew up in Ocala, and we had a great time. And then, these things happen. And what happened was there was a separation where years went by and Faces of Death continued to grow. And so the owner of the production company called me and he says, hey, we want to do number 4. We want to come to Florida. Can you put it together? And I said, why not? So sounds like fun.
They wanted to reenact. They wanted to come back to you getting eaten by snakes again.
So they said, well, listen, we need some, first of all, we need some ideas, and second of all, we need people. I said, okay, so we did basically a junkyard where, a guy, he's out there working, and all of a sudden this van falls on him right on his leg. And, well, I said, well, I've got the perfect guy for it. This guy I went to school with. He's a little heavy set, boisterous. He'll have a fun time with this, And long story short, we recreated the whole thing, blood and all, broken leg, just ambulance. And if you really pay attention to Faces of Death when you watch them, there's so many young people in these. You'd say, if you really thought about it, you'd say, well, there's no way that guy could be a paramedic. He looks like he's 20, Or, if you go through it, and I don't know, maybe Faces of Death 4, I probably am in it 4 or 5 times. But, I have a mustache, or a beard, or just back of my head, but because we couldn't always get enough people. And the other thing, we're on a budget. And so you're trying to work within the frames of a budget, and anyway, we were able to pull it off, and we created a bunch of scenes. We did a bungee jumping scene here, where the college kids tried to do it, and they just did the wrong math, and the guy goes kaplunk. And,
And then after you pull off a scene like that, you're very proud, aren't you? Oh, my God, it looks like his head actually splat. Oh, well, that was great.
So
great job, guys.
It's funny. So I go to the movies, and I have kids now, and you take them to the movies, especially. I have a middle daughter who she does like horror movies, And I remember when she would sit with my dad and watch Jurassic Park for hours and hours and hours, and she'd be 3. And she'd, Daddy, how... Again. And it's like, I understand how it's made, and I understand that it's fake. So if I go see a movie like that today, I don't even really jump or anything, just because...
Because in your head, you're going, oh, great technique. I wish. Yeah. Oh, we should have used that camera angle ourselves.
You look at it totally different, So it's, again, the magic of the camera, the magic of the cut, bring in the dummy, bring in the stunt guy, or makeup, or whatever the case may be, And, one of the things that I heard all these years was when people have heard that I was part of it, they said, well, how could you do the monkey brain scene? And in one of the movies...
This is one of the famous scenes, because although I didn't see this, I've heard about this over the years.
One of the famous scenes is that in Africa, they've eaten monkey brains. And we said we were going to recreate that. So, we had the monkey. It was a live monkey. And you bring him in, you put him down, and cut, right?
Cut the monkey.
Cut the tape. Right? You cut the tape. You pull it out, you bring the fake monkey in, which looks amazingly real.
Right.
Right? And it's cauliflower and Jell-O.
Cauliflower and Jell-O.
And looks just like...
Now you know how to make monkey brains.
And it's amazing what you can do with Karo syrup and food coloring.
Yeah.
Red food coloring. And
then that was your father, right? That was your father that was eating the brains?
No. This was another guy. Yeah,
okay.
No. This was... My dad only did the anything that had to do with the reptiles. Alligators, snakes, that kind of stuff.
How were you credited, or how were the actors and the players credited in the original film?
So, truth be told, the production company is a very reputable production company, and we did a lot of great shows, a lot of animal shows and things like that. And as you know, credits are your resume in this business.
Right.
And
and with SAG, there's a certain rules that are,
right.
Like we come to find out after this last Star Wars, I found out that back in the day, the original Star Wars, that George Lucas was fined $250,000 because he wanted Star Wars to begin the way it did with that scroll, right?
Right.
Well, Hollywood doesn't want that. No, they want directors' names and the lead act, whatever needs to be up there first. He's like, I don't want to do that. It's going to ruin everything. And they go, okay, well, you can pay $250,000, which in the late 70s might as well been $1 million compared to today, I would imagine.
Right.
Pretty close. And then he was kicked out of the Directors Guild, or he had to resign from the Directors Guild. But anyway, so back to...
So what we did was we all agreed, because we were very proud of all the really good stuff that we had done, that we wanted to create a separate entity. And I took on the name of Andrew Theophilus. My name is Andrew Theodore, and I'm Greek, so we went with Theophilus. And so I co-produced, co-directed, and jack of all trades, period. But yeah, that was my title, and I was Andrew Theopolis, and and there are several people in the movie that wanted their names as a credit because
Right.
it is their resume,
Right. You need it.
Whether it's your editor, the guy that's doing the filming, or narration, music, it doesn't matter. Just so many people behind the scenes, and all those folks took real names. But then we found that we were short of names. So we would put Juan Valdez in, and
So there were too many people in the film and not enough names on
Right.
on the credits. Dummy A, Dummy B,
so
Dummy
we,
C.
we came up with some names and stuff, and we just, it turned out to be just a fun. And don't get me wrong, it was intense. It was. There was some yelling back and forth. I don't like this idea. You can't do it this way. Over budget, or
All
all the stuff that you have, problems that you have, and challenges that you have. But at the end of the day, we all could sit back and laugh. We all could sit back and say, people are going to watch this.
Now, when it comes to the sequels of Faces of Death,
Right.
At what point was it known when the kids were going to see Faces of Death 4
Right.
in 1993? Were they going knowing that this was all set up? This was just more of a horror flick than anything, or did people still in 1993 going to see Faces of Death 4 think that the footage that they were seeing was real?
I think they still thought it was real.
Okay.
Yeah, I really do.
And
I don't think it's still, back in those days, obviously we didn't have the internet like we have it. I don't even know when the internet started, to be honest with you, but the internet today, you can look
Right.
at anything. And I think people have come to realize that, it's kind of like professional wrestling. There's just a faction of people that love it, and it doesn't matter to them.
Right.
Doesn't matter to them.
Right.
Whether they want to admit it or not. And there's a lot of people that are just doubters and they'd never watch it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think Faces of Death is somewhat similar to that, on the same parallel, that I think if you are a fan of Faces of Death and you get together with a group of your friends and you have it on DVD or download it from the internet and you want to watch it and have a good time with it, you're still going to do it.
Now, going back to the original Faces of Death, because that came from the documentary. By the way, is the documentary Fear still out there and available for people?
I don't
if they
know,
want?
and I meant to look it up before I came today, and I didn't do that. I did call the production company, and they don't have it.
They don't know what happened to it.
They don't know what happened to it, but
Does your dad have a copy anywhere?
we've looked.
Yeah.
We have looked. My dad is in his 80s now, and his health isn't what it used to be, and his memories are great, and we sit back and watch a lot of these things that he used to do, and I wish I could find it for him. I really do.
Yeah.
So I'll continue to look. We did a show years ago when I was a kid. I just happened to be just a helper, but it was called The Rattle of Death, and it was a very really good show on. Back in those days, there was Animal World and Animal Kingdom, and or Wild Kingdom. I'm sorry, and Marlon Perkins and all
Yeah.
that. And my dad did this one called Animal World, and it was about how snake venom is produced and anti-venom, and they did a show with him in it, of catching rattlesnakes and processing the venom and all that stuff. And so as he's gotten older and retired, and his reflexes aren't what they used to be, you certainly don't want to mess with poisonous snakes. So but I've tried to find some of these things and put them together for him so he really can see it. I think people take things for granted. I certainly take my golf career. I have nothing left in my golf career,
Right. Can you get out and play recreationally?
Oh, I play a lot.
All right.
I play a lot.
All right, we'll have to get out and play then.
I'm still a good player, and I
Are you shooting in the 70s every time you go out?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah, I
right.
think so.
I'm just sizing you up, in case you
Yeah.
ever get out of the links. I need to know. I need to know some stuff. Well, let's go back really to the original Faces of Death, and is some of that footage in there actual real footage?
Absolutely.
Okay. How do we know when we're watching the original Faces of Death? What's the real footage and the stuff that you set up?
That's a great question. To to be honest with you, I haven't watched Faces of Death in a few years, and I meant to watch some of it before this taping, and I've been traveling and I haven't been able to, but I don't know that you could tell. I would say this: if you think that
hold on real quick, I want to go real quickly some of the comments that are happening, because we stream live on Facebook, Google,
Right.
I'm sorry, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, all that stuff, right? So someone goes, "What?" Like they can't believe, their mind's blown that that stuff was set up. I haven't watched Faces of Death since I was a teen. They were the true horror films of the 70s, 80s. Nothing like them. That's coming from Christine. Also, she says you have to watch them all. And Joe says, I watched all of them, and that stuff was gross.
Well, I would say how you could tell the difference is if you really think it's one of those things my dad used to say, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Okay.
So if you think that somebody could go in and watch somebody being executed, that's not going to happen.
Okay. So
Right.
so the more gruesome, the better the scene in the original Faces of Death, the more likely it is that it's not real.
Correct.
All right, so just off the top of your head, can you remember a scene or two that one's definitely real footage that we had procured?
So a lot of stuff that you see that we get from overseas, let's say terrorism, bombings, things like that, that's all bought footage. You can go to like the Getty Images or whatever, and you pay for how many minutes you use, and you buy the license and you insert it, and there you go.
And then you've got Faces of Death.
And you've got Faces of Death. And when you compile everything together, the real footage, the recreated footage, and even the stuff that we may have made up, it looks real. And it just, again, there's talented individuals. You think about, I come into this facility today, and we're not in a very big room.
No.
And technology is amazing. 30 years ago would have taken maybe 5 more people than it takes today. I don't know that for sure, but what I do know is it's amazing what you can put together with technology and people's talents. And even though we didn't have the technology back then, we had people that had talent, whether it's makeup, whether it's special effects, whether it's camera angles. I can remember a scene where we went to a cremation. We were going to film somebody being cremated. And I remember the owner of our company saying, it'd really be cool if somebody would crawl in that oven and take a picture of the door closing. Now, of course, the oven wasn't on. Well, in Faces of Death 4, that is the opening scene.
Oh, wow.
Of an oven door closing, and we literally were inside.
All right. Well, listen, this has been really fascinating. I appreciate you coming in today.
Had a great time.
Especially for those of us of a certain age, Faces of Death is, I don't know, it was part of our upbringing. Whether you were like me and walked out of the room as soon as the kids popped it in, or like most normal kids, you stayed there and you watched the entire thing.
It's funny, as one of the times when we were kids, had some people over, my sister, I'll never forget this, and I had to walk out of the room because my sister and I were laughing so hard because we knew what would happen. We knew how this was filmed. And I remember one of my friends saying, well, your dad's in the next room. How did he get eaten by an alligator? And anyway.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you in Faces of Death 5.
I hope we do. I hope we put one together again. So it was fun doing it.
And is it still the same production company out of Japan that calls you for this stuff? They still own all the rights to it?
Yeah, they do. As far as I know, again, I've kind of lost touch with it. I've been out of the television business for quite a while now. It was fun.
In the blueberry business.
In the blueberry business. So eat blueberries.
I will. I'm a little bummed that you didn't bring a bushel of them.
I'll bring you some next time if we do something like this again.
All right, when we go play golf.
I'll go play golf anytime.
All right, when we go play golf, we'll bet blueberries.
You got it.
All right. Thank you very much, Teddy.
Thanks. You guys have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you so much, Teddy, from the original Faces of Death and dispelling all kinds of things, truths that we thought we knew. It's the Wake.Show. Coming up here, let me text our next guest. Our next guest is an old friend of mine, partner. All right, Napoleon, where are you, buddy? Nate Farmer. It's going to be a nice day today, in case you guys, let's see, you about ready? That's how you got to talk. You about ready? He's in Knoxville. Got a nice accent on him. So that'll be coming up here in a couple minutes while we're waiting for him, and I'll pull him up. We will get to some stuff you should know. And then for those of you heading out to the Gasparilla, the kids' portion of it this weekend, it's supposed to be nice tomorrow. We're looking at sunny and a high of, or partly cloudy and a high of 70 tomorrow. And today, I guess sunny and a high of 62. Should be a nice day today as well. Oh, excuse me. Well, where are you, Nate? I told you he called me the other day, apologizing up and down. Apologizing that he wasn't here for me on Monday when we originally had scheduled this thing. All right. Let's get to stuff you should know. As you can see, we will eventually have to have somebody in here pushing all these buttons because there are a lot of buttons to push in order to make this show go round. All right, mostly sunny day, high of 62, partly cloudy, 70 on Saturday. Here is stuff. Oh, we changed the view there. My bad. Here is stuff you should know. Thursday night, the House passed a temporary government-wide funding bill that would avert a government shutdown this weekend. The 230 to 197 vote came after an influential bloc of House conservatives won promise of future action on separate legislation to bolster the military and tighten immigration laws. House Freedom Caucus Chairman Mark Meadows announced the group's support after talk with House GOP leaders and President Trump. But the measure still faces uncertain prospects in the Senate, where Democrats are poised to block it in hopes of spurring slow-moving talks on immigration. The abuse allegedly at the hands of David and Louise Turpin was far worse than we thought. The judge originally said she would order. Hold on a second. I shouldn't have gone to my. Here's a good rule of thumb. Don't go to your text messages in the middle of your news report. So I text Nate, "Are you about ready?" Nope. I keep effing forgetting. All right. So we're going to come back to this story to break it down a little bit. It's a horrendous tragedy. These kids so underfed that they stopped growing. And I don't know if you guys seen the picture yet. I apologize that I don't have it right here in front of me. The family picture where all the kids are dressed the same, and it looks like they're children. They're all children. Like the two oldest boys that are standing in the back are in their late 20s, and they look like 14 maybe. It looks like they got stunted before puberty. But we'll come back to that. Day 4 of witness statements in the abuse trial of Dr. Larry Nassar gets underway today in Michigan. The judge originally said she would order a sentence today, but told Dr. Nassar Thursday she has enough witness impact statements to last 1 or 2 more days. The judge scolded Dr. Nassar for writing a letter claiming she was allowing a media circus by allowing all the victims time to speak. Can you believe the audacity? Who is this effing guy? The audacity. Judge, this is a media circus. You're allowing all my victims to speak publicly. I mean, come on. We can all see this isn't the way it should be. Thursday, USA Gymnastics announced also it would no longer be using the training facility in Texas where dozens of young women claimed they were abused. Young women, children. Children, not young women. Hollywood award season rolls on with the SAG Awards on Sunday night, actors celebrating actors, and the hashtag Time's Up, which this is the first I'm even hearing of it. Talk is sure to continue. I'm going to have to look at what the hell hashtag Time's Up is. Talk is sure to continue as both James Franco. I thought it was Me Too. When did it go from Me Too to Time's Up? Franco and Aziz Ansari are nominees. New movies this weekend include Chris Hemsworth's Afghanistan war drama, 12 Strong. I'm hearing good things about that. And Gerard Butler's action drama, Den of Thieves. I am not hearing good things about that. So let me look at that real quickly. What the hell is this hashtag Time's Up? What is, boom. What is Time's Up? Let's figure this out together. Let's learn together. And by the way, that's stuff you should know. Let's pull that stuff off there. Here we go. If 2017 was the year of hashtag Me Too, then 2018 will be all about hashtag Time's Up. By now, you've likely seen some of your favorite celebs on social media using the hashtag. No, I haven't. On Monday, a group over 300 prominent actresses and female agents, writers, directors, producers, and entertainment executives released their mission statement in a full page, blah, 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 blah. What is this supposed to be then? Pledging to help all women fight sexual harassment in the workplace. The initiative, which is leaderless and made up of working groups, include a legal defense fund for women that already has $13 million in its coffers to help low-income workers defend themselves, legislation to regulate companies with reputations for sexual harassment and to discourage making victims sign non-disclosure agreements, and a push to close the gender gap at studios and da-da-da. The initiative is also a show of solidarity to the 700 farm workers who wrote an open letter in November about sexual assault and harassment in their industry, calling out the fact that sexism exists everywhere, not just on sound stages and Hollywood. All right, so did we figure it out then? Do we know what it is? I'm going to try to fire him up right now, just out of curiosity. I didn't even download. Oh, so he's not even. Can you get in front of your Facebook Messenger, ? We can use Facebook Messenger video call, period. Or we can just reschedule for Monday, LOL. Oh, I love my old friend. All right, let's get to some of the horrible things in the news today. Let's talk about this California couple that for somehow over the last 3 decades were able to raise and torture 13 children every single day over the last 30 years in multiple houses and somehow not get caught until now. A California couple tortured a dozen of their children for years, starving them to the point that their growth was stunted, chaining them to the beds for up to months, preventing them from using the toilet at times. And did you guys see this morning? They were allowed to shower once a year. The victimization appeared to intensify over time. What started out as neglect became severe, pervasive, prolonged child abuse. And this, it's very difficult to wrap your head around the psychology of abuse because 2 of the kids got free. And this was a plan alleged, I guess, that had been in the making for 2 years. That 2 of the kids got free and had grabbed a cell phone and dialed 911. Now, the story that I did earlier was talking about how they're so uneducated, that the kids are so uneducated that they didn't even know what a police officer was. But they knew what 911 was. Also, did you guys see the story about how the neighbors, of course, are talking to them? And one woman thought something was weird because when she would walk by the yard every now and again, the kids would be out working in the yard, but one of the parents would be on the, in the doorway there or on the porch overseeing everything. And then when they would say hi, hi, how you doing, so-and-so, Turpins? The kids wouldn't respond or look up or anything like that. And go back to what these two, I don't know if we should be focusing on this so much because then I'm being very, very judgmental, because you look at these people and you go, oh yeah, they look like the kind of people that should be in prison. They look like the kind of people that should not have children. David Turpin, 56, and Louise Turpin, 49, were charged with multiple counts of torture, child abuse, dependent adult abuse, and false imprisonment. That dependent adult abuse thing is kind of crazy because, like I said, their oldest was 29 years old, looks like he's about 14, and had chained their children to these beds. David Turpin was also charged with performing a lewd act on a child under 14. Okay, well, that's new to me. I don't know what that is. I don't know that I want to know what that is. The girl and her siblings had plotted the escape for 2 years. Another girl who escaped out a window with the teen turned back out of fear, which is so fascinating. You would think, all right, we've done it. We're out. And you would think that anything out there would overcome the stuff that you're going through in here, the abuse that you're going through, the neglect, the torture. But it's weird how that kind of stuff plays on the brain. and the fear of the unknown of what might happen out there was too much, and would rather go back to the day in and day out abuse that I know I can deal with, because I deal with it every day. I would rather just sit there and be abused every day than go face whatever fears there are out there. Malnutrition was so severe that it was consistent with muscle wasting and had led to cognitive impairment and nerve damage. The oldest child, 29, weighed 82 pounds. The oldest child, 29, weighs 82 pounds. So I said he looked like a 14-year-old. No, he looked more like a 7-year-old, I guess, is more accurate. The 12-year-old was the weight of a 7-year-old. Some of the 13 children had been isolated so long they didn't even know what a police officer was. The victim's age ranged 2 to 29. The torture and false imprisonment charges do not include the 2-year-old who was not malnourished. Oh, well, good. At least that 2-year-old has a chance. And all the children's name begin with the same letter. How creepy. How absolutely creepy. All the kids' names begin with the letter J. Oh, let me take back that creepy thing, because I know there's a lot of families out there that have done the same thing. Maybe not all 13 kids, but, they have 3 or 4 kids and they all start with the same letter. It's adorable, not creepy. The parents were jailed on $12 million. Why were they just shot in the face? You would think we'd have laws in the books for special circumstances like this, where as soon as we catch you, we just shoot you in the face. The parents were jailed on $12 million bail each after pleading not guilty Thursday in their first court appearance. If they are convicted, they will be sentenced to life. Enough about that one. Enough about that horrible story. Lifeline law goes. All right. So the other story, one of the headlines that caught my attention this morning was this coming out of ABC Action News, and it's called the Lifeline law. It could save lives, but Florida does not have one. And what the Lifeline. Okay, so in the wake of a deadly hazing case on the campus of Florida State University, Tallahassee police say they're charging 9 FSU students with a felony, accusing them of encouraging underage drinking and for hesitating to call 911 when Andrew Coffey, 20, was found the next morning after a party without a pulse. So this is what this is supposed to tackle. In these situations, whether it's a hazing at a college campus or a party, hi, or a private party somewhere or whatever, they didn't call 911 out of fear of the repercussion. So this Lifeline law, states, sometimes called the Lifeline laws, states across the country are promising immunity from legal punishment if someone calls 911 during a health emergency, even if that emergency was caused by illegal activity such as underage drinking on a college campus. So this, you can see the rub here. Over half the states in the country have laws of this nature or are in the process of passing them. Florida is not one. However, the University of South Florida and other colleges across the country have passed new policies with this sentiment in mind. Quote, "We know young people are going to experiment with alcohol and drugs. We know sometimes it's going to put them in life-threatening situations, and we wanted to find ways to make sure students were getting help," they said. We're a community that's more concerned with the safety and health and welfare of our students as opposed to whether people get in trouble or not. Okay, I can see this getting out of. If you want to put on there, listen, if you guys are doing drugs or alcohol or drugs and things go south, no, all right, we're not charging you. Okay, just call 911. Let's make sure this person gets some help. But where do you go from there? Because what if when you're doing your research on this, or you're doing the the investigation, you realize this was easily preventable, that person that called 911 to save that other kid's life, that person is culpable. They're the ones that supplied the drugs, they supplied the alcohol, they did this, and we're supposed to go, oh, well, you called 911, so you're off the hook on this one. But if you leave the law as it is, well, then that person who supplied the drugs and the alcohol and whatever, they ain't calling shit. Or they're waiting like this. They're waiting because they don't know what to do. They call their lawyer first instead. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think this is do you like that? Do we need this law in the books in order to save lives? And yes, we might not be able to punish a a drug user or drug dealer every now and again, but that's fine. That outweighs what this will, the positives, and that is, some people will live after some of these horrible nights. Next up here. Hold on, let me see if they... Hold on. Sorry, did you get it fixed? Yes, I got it fixed. I think Monday, geez. Okay, so all right. We're pushing, we're going to push Napoleon back. We're going to give him a try number 3 on Monday. See if my old partner will join me on Monday. All right, then let's run through some of these last headlines before I get out of here. We'll end with some sports. We'll end with report on Tom Brady and whether or not he is going to play on Sunday. Well, I know. It's a big deal. One of the big headlines coming out of Florida today were our AG, Pam Bondi. We're going to Ohio to reach a settlement with opioid makers. Quote, we're prepared to go to litigation if Ohio courtroom doesn't produce a settlement. She has made cracking down on pill mills the cornerstone of 2 successful runs for Florida Attorney General. But it wasn't until Thursday, after the crackdown worsened, an opioid crisis that now kills at least 15 Floridians a day, that she outlined the possible legal action against the drug companies that started it all. Later this month, Bondi, and this is coming from TampaBay.com, Bondi is sending her chief deputy, Trish Connors, to a federal courtroom in Ohio to try to negotiate a settlement between hundreds of other plaintiffs suing opioid manufacturers and distributors. Quote, I am optimistic, she says. We're going to resolve it that day. And if we're not, we're prepared to go to litigation. Now, Florida is not suing the manufacturers. Not yet. But the Ohio trip could be the first step towards joining a big tobacco-type settlement that could yield untold millions for the state. A federal judge in Cleveland is trying to combine the more than 200 states, cities, and counties that have already sued the drug makers with the 41 other states, including Florida, that are considering to sue them. The hope is to create a global settlement this year. A January 31st meeting between the sides is the first step. Because Bondi said her office was hiring outside lawyers to represent Florida. She says, quote, I feel it's in their, the drug companies, best interest to attempt to resolve it as early as possible and at least correct their conduct. And then we'll go back and get all the money that is owed to these people. Bondi, who led the crackdown on pill mills that inadvertently led to the heroin crisis, has been a proponent of expanding treatment and services for addicts. But instead of suing, she joined 40 other states in an investigation into the drug companies last year, which has brought criticism and demands for answers from politicians. All right, so that's the latest on that one. We'll see how that plays out. A story coming out of ABC Action News this morning, Florida police officer caught disconnecting a man's... So this, this is one of those things where the headline gets me, Florida police officer caught disconnecting a man's surveillance. And then, you're seeing this like, oh, okay, what is this shady bastard up to? Let's go and find out here. And it looks like that he wasn't up to any shadiness whatsoever. An Indian River County man feels his privacy was violated after he captured Vero Beach police disconnecting a surveillance camera outside his front door. Police were investigating a crime the man says he had nothing to do with, which is true. So here's the details of the story. There's a felony warrant. This guy looked like another guy. He was not. He was not the guy they were looking for. He looked like the guy they were looking for, I guess. And so when he goes back and looks at the cameras, he sees this cop right here. Disconnecting his cameras. And he's like, this is effed up. This is, a violation of my privacy. How could you even do something like this? Which makes perfect sense at the beginning. But I guess this is not uncommon. This is, or could be protocol. So you're serving a warrant there. You look up, you see this camera. And because also part in this warrant, they were looking for a guy that had a cache of guns. So to them, you know where we are. As you're sitting there loading up your AR-15, well, we disconnect these cameras so you don't have that look outside. Now, the police department said, listen, man, you should have called us. You're going to the paper after all this. If you would have called us and we messed up your video cameras at all, we would have replaced it. We would have paid for it. This is not that big of a deal. You're making a much bigger deal out of nothing. Next up, Well, Cords, welcome back. So you want to sit down? You should coming in for the just.
Yeah, I'll sit down.
No, you don't. I don't want to force you, but you. All right. So let's get to what's on your mind this morning, Cords Owen. Cords Owen, the owner of Bake More Pies and my partner in the Wake.Show, with a big smile on his face this morning.
I'm just really excited. I was really excited about the interview we had with Teddy.
That was really cool. What did you think when you first so when you first heard the news? Was that moments before you texted me 3 weeks ago?
No, I actually. So the story goes is I was actually doing video for the farm for the produce company. And I was on the farm, on one of these blueberry farms, and we were out there with the crew, and the director of marketing for Wish Farms said, "Hey, Teddy, did you tell them about your past life?" And I was like, "Past life? What are you talking about? You're a blueberry farmer, right?"
Right.
It turns out, he goes, "No, it's Faces of Death." I was like, "What? Faces of Death? I love those movies." And then he goes, "Yeah, no, I helped direct those movies."
And you were like,
And I was like,
what?
What? Yeah, like my childhood was like shattered.
Yeah.
And so I actually texted a few of my friends and told them like, "Hey, I'm going to have somebody that helped make those films on the show." And they were like, "Make those films? I thought they were real." And anyhow, I mean, in terms of like the history of what we're doing here, much respect to that guy, because really he's the godfather, with those films, of everything that came after, with all the viral videos and everything else.
It's funny, the people online are saying that this is something that I need to watch. That I need to go back and watch all of them. I don't want to. I don't have any.
Now that you know it's fake, I mean, why not?
I don't know what it is about me. That's never been my thing. I do not like to watch. I'm a very empathetic person. Okay, I think sometimes to a fault, and when I watch somebody get hurt, I hurt. If I see somebody get punched in the face, it's not that I feel it, but emotionally I feel it. I don't like that kind of stuff.
No fail video Fisher then.
I do. I hate it. It's a good point. One of the things that bothers the crap out of me is when I'm at a bar and they'll put on Spike TV. Well, it's been a few years. I don't know if they do this stuff anymore, but last night at Masteries,
it's there. I've seen it.
It was the Chive. Like Chive has their own network or something.
I've seen it in bars. Yep.
Yeah. So I look up and it's just fail. Hashtag fail army.
Right.
Is what it was. No, I do not want to see skateboarders racking their balls on anywhere on anything.
No, right.
I do not enjoy that stuff at all. So I will not be watching it. But I do realize that Faces of Death is part of our childhood.
Absolutely. Well, and then the gentleman that I had with me that was in here in the studio, his name's Juan, and we're looking at putting together a show for him too.
Yeah. Well, Juan was in the background. Nobody saw Juan on camera when he was wondering. I was wondering if there was a guest that I'd missed. Like, oh crap!
He was the quiet one.
Gorge comes walking in with somebody, and while I'm sitting here talking to Teddy from Faces of Death, and I'm going, I don't. If you guys go back, you'll see me look down at my phone at one point. I'm looking at my calendar, my show calendar, going, did I schedule somebody else in the show that didn't make it onto or is walking in here? But this is somebody else that we might be developing another or a show around.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a brand that can be very difficult to advertise for, and anyhow, so a show is a perfect platform for him. Just like we've talked about, some of the prospects we've been talking to about being the title sponsor for this show.
Sex robots? Is he into sex robots?
Yeah, sex robots. Exactly.
All right. Well, let's get to Tom Brady. You gonna be watching any football this weekend?
Potentially. Yeah. I mean, I haven't planned on it, but yeah, maybe.
All right. Well, all eyes are on Brady. The big news coming out this morning: Tom Brady has not missed many starts during his 18-year NFL career. And no one sounds too worried that he'll be sidelined for Sunday's AFC Championship game. Nonetheless, Brady sat out practice on Thursday and did not speak to reporters as scheduled. There was plenty of speculation about the 40-year-old quarterback's health. Are you somebody who roots for, or are you a fan of the Patriots?
So only last year I was a fan of the Patriots.
For the first time since I've met you, I've wanted to say F you right to your face.
Well, let me tell you why. It was for selfish reasons. So I'm in a NFL wins pool every year. So we've been doing it. My wife went to Tampa Connection, which is like a leadership type program around Tampa Bay, and she met these friends. And ever since then, this was years and years ago, we've always done an NFL wins pool. Well, last year I got the first pick, so I chose the Patriots. So that's the only year in the history of my life I've actually rooted for the Patriots. And this year I'm agnostic.
I am not. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about the New England Patriots, but I do not like watching them win. I don't like Tom Brady, and I don't like Belichick. And I'm not even sure why. I'm a hater. I think you're a hater. When that's what a hater is. When you look at somebody else and you hate them, and it's really just because of how successful they are.
Right. I mean, it's like hating the Duke Blue Devils, right?
Sure. Except the way one of the things that I look at Belichick and the Patriots. Yeah. I draw a parallel to some of the issues that we have in the world now in America, and I feel like Belichick, to me, personifies corporate greed, if that makes sense.
Well,
like they're willing. What are the rules? What rules can we bend and break?
Exactly.
And then what are the consequences? If we get caught, I don't care if we get caught because the consequences are so little that I'm willing to take the gamble. I will cheat to win because I know that the consequences are nothing.
So I wholeheartedly agree with you on all of that. Absolutely. So if the rules aren't defined, like they'll push the limits of whatever's
That's just being smart. That's just being smart.
Exactly. Right. So that bothers the hell out of me with what they did with videotaping the other. I mean, who knows? I mean, I would be willing.
But allegedly, everybody else has done the same thing too. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, all the coaches that came out didn't go, "Yeah, I'm sorry, we did it too."
Well, and then also, as somebody who was so excited to watch the Atlanta Falcons' journey to win their first Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, that must have been heartbreaking for you.
It was disgusting. It made me nauseous. I couldn't watch.
Well, think about, I mean, we just got through watching a college football championship too, where a team from Georgia famously let another team come back that's, famous for winning.
That got to hurt.
Also,
that had to hurt.
There's a lot of broken hearts in Georgia this year.
Yes, there is. All right, Cords, that's all I have on the slate today, sir, unless you have, some other news some business to bring to the table.
Nothing new. We just had a great Bake More music last night with D Alps.
Okay.
They had a great time. We're real excited about some potential things we're doing with Gasparilla Music Festival that we'll be telling everyone more about as we get closer. And we're going to have David Cox on probably next week, and he's going to tell us more about the lineup. So everybody knows about The Roots. They know about Spoon. There's a couple other big bands, and then they've got, I think, 30 more bands that are part of the lineup there.
You going to bring them by the show? We going to have them on the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and he really liked the fact that he could come in remotely.
Oh, there's always that. Thank you so much for being part of the Wake.Show today. I am very excited. What are you guys doing this weekend? Are you going to Gasparilla? Now, this isn't the alcohol-fueled version of Gasparilla. This is the child's. Let's not forget, these are children. This weekend. It's going to be good weather tomorrow. Tonight, I'll be cooking for my wife. I'm very excited about our date night tonight. I'll be cooking for Mrs. Fisher. Wait, hold on. That's weird.
What are y'all eating? Do you know what you're cooking yet?
Yeah, she sent me the recipe. No, listen, I know that sounds weird, but it's not. She goes, "Oh, what do you think about this?" Let me show it to you real quickly. So the recipe. Jeez. Oh no, that's the wrong one. I don't remember now. I'm sorry.
I'm sure it'll be great, Chris.
Yeah, I'll make sure I take pictures of it or something tonight. I don't know. She sent me a recipe yesterday. Oh, I think it's in my email address. Sorry. All right. Thank you so much for being a part of the Wake.Show. Have a great weekend. And I got a little business to talk real quickly before we, because you and I have talked about the future time slot of this show. Mm-hmm. Can we go ahead and start that on Monday, or should we wait until we add that other person to the show?
No, let's
then
do
we
it now.
rework the intro, and then have our grand opening launch.
No, I'm totally cool with doing it now. I think it'll be better for you. I think it'll allow us to help you more as a company, because you're here at least an hour before the first person gets here. And, when we have guests and all of that, it really probably will help you if we're all here. I know we had, every now and then we have technical problems. If a few of us are here, we can jump in and help out. So, all
right, well, let's make that announcement right now then. Beginning on Monday, this show is going to be a lunchtime show. We're very excited about that. It will be we'll start at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Beginning on Monday, and this is something that we've been talking about off the air for about a month, maybe a little over a month, and it just seems to make sense. The way that people consume their their media in the morning, with morning radio and whatnot. You're in your car, and I know more and more people are streaming this kind of stuff in their car. A lot of you are streaming this stuff in your car. But I think it would serve us better and serve you guys better if we focused on people who were already, working and already doing their thing. They're at the computer and they've got an earbud in, listening to us or watching this kind of in the periphery. And then, of course, lunchtime is when, people hop on their cell. They're at lunch. A lot of people have their sandwich by themselves. Well, you can take us along and we'll be there and we'll have some fun interviews, play games, trivia, stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. And instead of talking about what happened yesterday, we might be able to talk about some breaking news.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. That'll happen Monday morning. The new start time for the Wake.Show, 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. We'll go from 11 till about 1, I think is probably what we'll end up doing. Have a great day. Be safe, and we will see you soon.